Okay, I said we would talk about this, and we're going to talk about this today. Checking in. This is something, again, many teams across the business world or the career side, and even at churches and everywhere, there needs to be this sense of accountability, this sense of kind of coming back together and rechecking where we're going. I mean, pilots do this. If let's say with an aircraft, this story of being 1% off, right? They thought the instruments were off a little bit. They weren't checking other things, and they ended up thousands of miles or hundreds of miles away from their the intended destination because they weren't consistently reviewing and checking in that they were doing okay, right? That they were on course. And that can happen to us as well. Again, if we're as a couple, if we start to just let things go and we stop talking with each other, we stop checking in with each other, we start to live parallel lives, or we start to kind of just live so far apart, and eventually we end up being like, I don't even know this person anymore, they're so far away, right? And so this idea of having a consistent time to check in with each other is important. Now, we're going to kind of set some ground rules so that when we check in, things will be productive instead of destructive. As you are talking together, there needs to be a certain level of mutual respect. John and Julie Gottman from the Gottman Institute have done decades of research, 40, 50 years of research around communications in relationships, and they found four things to be super destructive and problematic. Criticism, that we have, and what I like about the translation of these four things in Spanish is it talks of more of attitudes. It's not necessarily actions, but more the attitude behind it or the intention behind it that causes problems. So a critical attitude. So that we're just being nitpicky, cynical, pessimistic about anything and everything our partner is saying. That is going to break down the ties of connection and cause more of a separation and a turning away instead of coming together as a team. So a critical attitude, a defensive attitude, that if we hear our partner saying things and doing things and we start to get all up in ourselves, we take it too close to the heart and we just start pushing back or attacking back, we are not in the right headspace for a productive conversation. So kind of critical attitude, defensive attitude, contempt. We feel resentment and anger, or again, we're looking down at our partner, that they are less than us, that they don't, that we know better, that again we put ourselves up, we put them down in our minds, causes problems. It causes a division, obstacles for real connection to happen, that when we have these check-ins, that those check-ins actually go somewhere. We have to kind of let go of that contempt. And the last one, they call it stonewalling, and in other words, it's kind of getting to an emotional, getting to your end emotionally. That your gas tank is empty and you just don't have anything left to give to this conversation, and you kind of just stop caring. Any of these four things need to be addressed and taken care of before or during the conversation for things to be productive. So instead of being critical, being gentle, being kind, being open, instead of being defensive, taking responsibility for your sides of things and what you can do, what you can influence, even if you didn't cause it, how can you help? How can you be supportive? Again, even if it's not your responsibility, you didn't do anything, you didn't cause it, what can you do to be a guide, a support, a help meet, as it were? Instead of having contempt, having love, having appreciation, being willing to bring them in and care about them as a person, as an equal. And then stonewalling, if you get to the point where you're just done, you need to take a break. Take a break. Sleep it off. Get some food. Go exercise. Talk about something else, and then come back to discuss this issue or to kind of reconnect. So recharge the battery enough so that you can really give your all into this. And as we do that, as we are willing to kind of listen in and have that openness and love and see that person on those equal grounds, taking responsibility, these check-ins will go so much better. Again, if we're seeing and having the focus that the enemy is the enemy, my partner is my teammate, that we're working together, that we're a unit, then as you are checking in, you'll care more. and you'll feel more, and your partner will feel that you care more, and they will feel that you're listening, and that it's important to you and to them. And this is something you both need. You both need to feel cared for, you both need to feel heard, you both need to feel that connection. And so both of you coming in with those four things removed, and the kind of the gentleness and love that you want to kind of express to them. So this idea of a check-in, and the idea of checking in with your partner can look like a lot of different things. For some people, it's just having a conversation, right? Just coming home and talking about, what did you see today? What happened today? Like, how are you feeling? What's going on? And it's just a very fluid, non-structured conversation, which can be fantastic. If that's your thing, around the dinner table or just pillow talk, just having those conversations every day, checking in, talking, and being so curious about what's going on in their lives, what's going on in their heads, especially if you start to see those signals, again, as the kind of on the watchtower, if you start to see those signals that something's up, something's not quite right. Again, we're not jumping to a critical attack or a judgment. We're just saying, hey, I'm seeing some things, like, let's check in, right? For a more structured approach, you guys can take turns, right? Somebody's like, I'm going to share about my day for so much time. You're going to share about your day for so much time, and we'll kind of leave it at that. And the idea here is, especially if one person is tending to not share so much or doesn't talk as much, that there's one person who's the talker and one person who's the listener. It's important that both of you get a turn and a chance and practice opening up, especially the person with an addiction and problems. The kind of the tendency there is usually to hide and be more secretive, and problems thrive in secrecy. So opening that back up, sharing, and having time to talk, even if it's just 5 minutes, to be like, hey, this is what's going on in my head. This is what I've been working on. For an even more structure, now these three steps come from a book, and I cannot find it. I've searched and I've looked, and I can't get it. But I love these things, and so it's not my structure. I've adapted it a little bit to my style, but this comes from another person, and it has to do with the check-ins with recovery work, with recovery efforts. It can work for just general relationships too, but in the recovery world, what it is you guys both sit down and you're going to share about three things. One, you're going to talk about what you are doing to try and improve. What are you doing to, what, again, going back to the responsibility, what is it, what has been my responsibility, what am I doing? I'm giving in a report, I'm giving an account about what I have been doing and working on to try and improve things. Two, what do you appreciate about your partner? Things that they've done that's been helpful, things that you've seen that helped you feel loved. What is it from them that you're like, yes, these are things that I appreciate. These are things I'm grateful for. This is things that I love. The things that helped me feel loved. Whatever it is. So one, what am I doing to improve? Two, what do I appreciate about what you're doing to improve or doing to just being? And then three, you're going to talk about what you need help with to be able to express, hey, tomorrow I've got this thing going on. Tomorrow this is what's happening. Tomorrow I wanted to try this. Can I get your feedback? Can I get your support? Can you help me with this? Can you kind of remind me about this? Can you do this? And these are just petitions. They're asking. You're not forcing or demanding, I need this. If you don't do this, like, again, giving an ultimatum, we're gonna break apart. No, it's just say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I appreciate about you, and this is what I need. I need support in this way. Can we figure out how we can make this work? And then again, collaborating, coordinating until we can come to unity, negotiating different things. So one person shares those three things, the next person then shares those three things, and having this mutual check-in. As you do this, again, it keeps those lanes for communication, those lines for communication open, and the opportunities to ask for help abundant, and helps the team really know that we're moving in the right direction. We're not drifting off in any different way. And these give opportunities for trust to be built. This gives opportunities for commitment to be shared. That there's so much here. So again, my expectation when I work with couples is every day be talking, every day be checking in, every day be working on this. And if they're not, I don't see them progress very well. The couples that do this, the couples that really put in this effort to have this conversation, and it doesn't have to be long, it can be 5-10 minutes of just sitting down, checking in, moving on. But the couples who do this and spend the time and sacrifice for this, to set time and other things aside so that they can really find that connection, make it work, and find much more happiness and joy and love in the relationship. Find the time, make the time today and every day to check in, discuss how is it you guys as a couple want to check in. What does that look like? Now, in these check-ins, it's okay to also put boundaries and limits. That I know certain spouses and certain people find it overwhelming to be talking about recovery every day. So if there's just one day a week or a couple days a week that you want to talk about recovery work and check in on that, great, fantastic. Let's do that. And then the rest of the time, just check in on life that keeps happening. Life doesn't stop because we're working recovery, we're trying to heal, or we're going through a crisis. Checking in and working on other things, using these skills, developing these skills consistently, these mindsets and this awareness. So if your partner's like, you know what, I just can't talk about the addiction every day, that's just too much, give them some grace and be like, okay, let's check in just once a week. Or I'll just let you know that I'm checking in with my sponsor, or I'm checking in with my therapist. I'm letting them know. Um, and if you have questions, being open and willing to ask that. And I think that's another thing about checking in, is that it doesn't, I mean, you can have the structured form, but you can also have the more kind of impromptu or spontaneous check-ins of like seeing those signs, seeing those red flags, and being like, hey, I just want to check in because I'm seeing some things that are worrying. Can we talk? And as you guys keep those lines of communication open, recovery happens better, and the relationship becomes a much happier place.